So today we are privileged to have a guest on our webinar, and we'll get to him in a few minutes. But Steve Gamez has been a client of ProspectNow for a number of years, and I was speaking with him a couple weeks ago, and he made the comment to me, literally in his words, ProspectNow is the best real estate product I've found in 35 years in the business. And boy, when you hear a testimony like that from one of your clients, that's somebody that you'd like to talk more with and let others have a chance to hear what he has to say as well. So we'll have him on in a few minutes and let him sort of tell you as a fellow colleague in the business what he likes about what the ProspectNow product. Before that, what I want to do for those of you who maybe haven't been as exposed to ProspectNow and seen it at work is give you an overview of who we are, what we do, what the product does, and how hopefully it will be able to benefit you in your business and help you close more transactions. So, right off the bat here, let's get into who is ProspectNow. Well, our founder is Steve Wayne, and he was a commercial real estate broker for a number of years. And like many of you, when he was first in the business, he joined a brokerage. He was sat down at a desk with a computer and a phone and told, all right, welcome to real estate. Here's your phone. Start making phone calls. And, quite literally, that was about the extent of the training. I mean, there were some other training opportunities, of course, but when it came down to it in terms of prospecting for new business, he, like the rest of us who have been in real estate, and I have a background in real estate myself as well, it's about getting on the phone and making contacts with people, right? And what he found is that phone was like a 50,000-pound weight because, trying to pick it up and make a call, who do you call, what's their name, what's their phone number, how do I find prospects, who should I be calling on? It was quite a daunting task. And so he decided, hey, I'm here in Silicon Valley, we're the center of technology, there's got to be a better way to do this. There's got to be a way to get after these contacts and be able to get property owners on the telephone. There wasn't an existing product that did that, and so like a lot of Silicon Valley entrepreneurs, he decided just to make it as himself. And so that's what he did. We're here in Los Altos, California, right in the heart of Silicon Valley, and ever since the beginning, we've had a lot of rapid growth. We're profitable. And those of you that are in the commercial real estate space, I'm sure, are familiar with LoopNet. And early on, one of our early investors was Dennis DeAndre, and he was one of the founders of LoopNet and saw the value in what Steve was doing with ProspectNow and how it could really change the lead generation climate in commercial real estate. And so he made it an investment with us. Now, today, we've got over 2,000 customers all across the country at multiple firms and all across different disciplines as well. So commercial real estate agents and brokers have been a bulk of our clientele up till now. We also have a lot of banks and lenders, and then a lot of tradespeople like commercial landscaping companies, solar companies, roofers that want to contact property owners. And then on top of that, in the last month, we have also added all the residential property information into our database, and so now we're really ramping up with residential real estate agents and brokers because all of that data is now in the system and accessible. As I mentioned, I have a background in real estate myself. I was a residential real estate agent, and one of my favorite books that I read was Gary Keller's book called The Millionaire Real Estate Agent. And if you haven't picked that one up and taken a look at it and read it, I highly recommend it. And even though he does sort of bias toward a residential type real estate practice, it's very applicable to commercial space as well. And one of the things he says in there is that he talks about the 3 L's of a successful real estate practice, and those are leads, listings, and leverage. And his point of view on that is that you have to have leads. You got to be lead generating every day. You have to be prospecting and generating leads every day if you want to have a successful practice. He talks about listings as being sort of the bread and butter of a very successful real estate business. Sure, we all can work with buyers and tenants looking for space, but when you have that listing, it's like you're having your own storefront out there. People come to you when you have a listing, and so it's really a really high value commodity in the real estate space to have a listing. And then leverage, and leverage is all about having the right tools, processes and people in place to do work for you so that you, as the professional, can focus your time on those high dollar producing activities. So you know that in your business there's a lot of low dollar activities that have to get done, like doing research, finding phone numbers, doing paperwork, getting all your ducks in a row at the office, and making copies of things and doing flyers and stuff. Well, but those are not high dollar producing activities. What are the high dollar producing activities? They are meeting with somebody in person or on the phone who is a decision maker that can say yes or no, yes, I want to buy this property, or yes, I want to sell my property. And that's what you want to be spending the bulk of your time on. So that's what leverage is all about. And I put this in here because the tool, the ProspectNow tool, is great at basically helping you with all three of these, all three of the key L's of real estate. Obviously, the leverage, it is a tool that can generate leads for you that will ultimately result in more listings. So the question that we all have, or that you all have in the space here of real estate, is how can we find the actual decision makers, the owners and tenants who want to do business with us? And that really is the key question that when we started ProspectNow, really wanted to help people answer. Well, what does that look like in the traditional way? So up till now, and for many of you still today, when you are out there and you've got that phone, you're sitting in front of your computer and you're trying to make contact with folks, you start with information that's out there, whether it be on the internet or through your title company or whatever source you have, but it's all separate. So you may have a list of property addresses. Those addresses may or may not have an owner name that is an LLC. If it is, then you've got to find the partner name and the owner, because you need a real person to talk to. Then you need to try and find their phone number. They may or may not be on the do not call list, so you have to be concerned about that. How about an email? Well, that's usually in a separate system. And you see this picture just keeps going and going, and there's all this information is out there, but it's all in separate locations, and none of it has been historically connected to each other so that you can just go to one source and say, just give me all of this information. So industry codes for tenants, property details, number of units, bedrooms, baths, property size, then information about the company. How many employees do they have? What's their sales volume? So all this information is out there, but it is a bear to try and track down and pull together on your own. So what that looks like, if you had to do this for one or two companies or one or two property owners, it may not be such a daunting task. 'Cause what this looks like is you search up an address, you get an LLC name. In many cases, that's not an actual person's name as the owner, it's a name of a company or an LLC. So now you go to Secretary of State's website, search up the LLC, hopefully you get a partner name. Now you've got a real person's name, so you go to yet another source of information to look up that person's phone number. Hopefully you can get a phone number for them, and finally now you can make a phone call, talk to somebody, add it to your spreadsheet or whatever CRM tool that you want to do. And as I say, if you do this once or twice, fine, no big deal, you can take your time to do that. But if you've got to do this multiple times to build any decent-sized database of contacts that are going to generate ongoing business for you throughout the year, that's going to be quite a task. And even if you did this just 10 property owners a day, that would be about 2,400 times you do that in a year. And that's just not a really efficient way to be able to build a database. So this is what the ProspectNow tool has done for you, and this is what Steve and the folks here have built. We've taken all of those sources of data that I showed on the couple screens back and combined them, massaged them, rinse, spin, repeat, put that into a single source and a single database. And you don't have to worry about all of the hows and what's and whys and how it works, but all you need to know is that all of that data, the owner, the property, the phone numbers, the LLC data, is gelled down into a single source that you can then access on your computer, your laptop. You can get it on your mobile phone and your iPad or tablet device, and you can even export it to an Excel spreadsheet and put it into whatever tool that you want to use to work with it. So that's what you've got. Now, what I want to point out is that we're not just a list supplier. It's not just a list of names and phone numbers. What we've got here, and I'll show you a demo in a few minutes after we have a chance to talk with Steve, is the very highly targeted searches that you can do with our search engine. You can go in there and you can say, hey, give me all the companies that are wireless companies in the area that have high growth rate, or show me, I know that this downtown area has a lot of high growth potential, and I want to target just this area, so draw a circle on the map and give me properties and owners in just that area. You can do searches like things like multi-asset owners. Tell me everyone who has more than 3 or 4 properties in the area. Or out-of-state owners. I like this one as a prospecting tool because out-of-state owners might be disconnected with the market. They don't know that what property values have appreciated. They maybe are tired of dealing with a property remotely. So you can specifically target with our tool out-of-state owners. If you want to look for folks that are maybe needing to sell because they're behind on their payments, you can search for properties that have notices of default filed against them. So you can just see some of the high-value searches that we have in the product. So that gives you an idea of what ProspectNow is and where we come from and why we exist. Really, it's all about having a single source so that you can focus your time and energy getting to the decision maker and not spending a lot of time spinning your wheels just doing research, trying to find who you should talk to and how you can get in touch with them. Let me bring up Steve here. We'll talk to him, and he'll kind of let you know from his perspective about ProspectNow. So, Steve, are you there?
I'm here.
Okay, great. So if you want to get close to your speaker there and talk to us, why don't you give us real quick a little bit of background. I have kind of your short resume here on the screen, but tell everyone kind of who you are and your business and background.
Well, I was originally licensed in '77, and I started out with doing commercial and then going into some apartments and kind of worked on that over the years. I did some small syndications and different things, and always looking for ways to organize your information. So that's kind of something we've always been looking for. I've probably the biggest building I ever sold was 66 units, and then I've sold some small ones and everything in between. So I've owned buildings, managed my own buildings, and that's kind of my what I've done since that time.
Great, great. And when did you come across ProspectNow? How long have you been a client?
Been about 3 or 4 years. Somebody actually called me, kind of like we do. Somebody called me from ProspectNow and asked me if I was interested in doing that, and they didn't want to sign me into a long-term contract. It was reasonable, and I thought, why not? Sounds like good information. So I signed up.
Yeah, that's great. I do another version of this webinar where I kind of talk about cold calling and warming up those calls and stuff. And one of the things I like to point out is that there is no shame in making cold calls, and it works for us and it works for you guys. And this country kind of spins economically on salespeople, so we're in an honorable profession. Okay, so great. So you said, I remember when we were talking before, you said, hey, I signed up right away because it sounded good. What was it that sort of caught your attention when you were introduced to ProspectNow?
Well, the information sounded good. The phone numbers, the searches you were able to do, the fact that I didn't have to sign a long-term contract like you do with some subscriptions, and the fact that it was reasonable per month. I thought I can afford this, and if it works out, it'll definitely be worth it. Good.
All right, great. What are some of the ways that you use it? Like, or one way I can put it is, what are some of your favorite searches? When you go into ProspectNow, how are you kind of using it typically?
Well, a lot of times when I have a listing or I just sell something, I'll contact people around that listing to let them know I have it available or have something, and I'm able to get the phone numbers of those people or the LLC information or whatever, and you can go into that. So that's very helpful. Sometimes I'll pick an area that I work in. I do a lot of Long Beach, so I'll pick maybe a little section I'm working in and find the out-of-state owners in that area, and it's just, things like that. Well, there's so many searches that you have, and then like I say, the LLC information is good because it helps you to find the decision makers on these things as opposed to just finding out the name of the LLC.
Great, cool. Now, one thing, when we were talking before, you said something that really kind of stuck out to me. You know, in our high-tech society, we're all used to email, or a lot of us are used to email, even text messaging and instant messaging. But what have you found to be true? You made a comment to me about the phone. What have you found to be true of your clients?
Well, you know, I have, as apartment owners, you get a lot of older folks. I'm 62 myself, but you get a lot of people that are older than that, and they're not really into the high-tech stuff. A lot of them don't even have me. I have two clients right now that both at one time owned over 1,000 units, and neither one of them owns a computer. You know, and if you want to talk to these guys, you're not going to send them an email. You're not going to do any of that type of. Not that everybody's that way, but there's a lot of people that are, you know, a little bit more old-fashioned and just talk to them. And if you call them on the phone, that's probably the most likely way to reach them.
Yeah, that's good. That was good feedback. I was, in a way, I kind of grew up in the tech world, and that's why I was a little bit surprised by that. But then, kind of hearing your story about that, it really is true that there are a lot of property owners out there that maybe have owned that property for many years, and maybe they aren't as high tech, and maybe emails and certainly text messaging and other things like that isn't going to be their approach. And
a lot of people, even when they have emails, they don't know how to use them or want to use them. They just, you know, they want kind of a more personal contact, older folks and stuff.
Right.
And so it's good to be able to approach people, you know, just verbally.
Yeah. And I think even for those that are tech savvy, you know, there's nothing wrong with getting on the phone. And if you've got something that they need and want, and you can target them, that is really going to they're not going to be bothered by that phone call. So tell me about this story. We talked about a story of an apartment building that you had listed. Tell me about that again.
Oh yeah, a few months back, last year, I guess, I had a building listed, and I got an offer right away with some backup offers, and it was looked like a real strong deal, but the deal fell apart. And so what I did, along with calling the people who had the previous offers, I decided to cold call right around the area where this building was. And when I didn't get a hold of people, I'd leave a voice message. And I left a message for one guy, and he called me back, I think it was later that same day. And as it turned out, he owned a building on the same block, 2 parcels away from this one, very similar to this one, and he was in a 1031 exchange, so he was looking for an upleg. So it was an ideal situation for him. So he ended up buying the building, which worked out well for him and for the seller and for everybody. So that was a good deal.
Yeah, that's great. And obviously you were calling around your listing using ProspectNow to look up the phone numbers.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The radius search that they had in there, and I called a person who I'd never spoken to before, and it was as soon as I told him about it, it sounded good, and I sent him the information, and he ended up purchasing the building.
That's great. I'm going to demo that radius search since you brought it up in a few minutes. So, you know, kind of bottom line for us, Steve, why would you say that you know, a real estate professional ought to be using ProspectNow, in your opinion?
Well, I think for the money that you charge, it's a lot of great information, and how many deals do you have to get to pay for it for the next 5 years? I mean, it's really good. You don't try to tie people down to a long-term contract, and your customer service is great. Everybody there is so helpful, and every time I've called over at ProspectNow, they go out of their way to be of assistance. So I really like the people there. I like the product, and that's why I wanted to do this, because I'm really happy with your product and service.
Great. Well, we really appreciate it. Thank you very much for your feedback on the product and for joining us today. I'm going to get into the demo now. So thanks, Steve. You can hang on and kind of watch us fly through this. But I want to show everyone kind of all the stuff you've been talking about and how it works. So let me get into that now. Let's see. All right, this will bring up ProspectNow. So when you first get into ProspectNow, you get a dashboard here. And so for those of you who haven't seen this yet, this is the after logging in, you'll get this screen. And right off the bat, the easiest thing to do is here you can put in a location and put in an address or a zip code and just start searching right away. So let me just give a quick demo, pick an area. So let's say I pick Lincoln Avenue, Lincoln Avenue. San Jose is near where we are, and I'll pick commercial property. So this is just a quick search, and this would be an example kind of like Steve's scenario where let's say I have a listing on Lincoln Avenue. It's a popular kind of hip downtown location here in San Jose where there's a lot of businesses up and down this street. Let's say I have a listing there and I want to do like what Steve did, and I want to call around other business or other building owners along Lincoln Avenue, let them know about my listing, maybe see if they are interested in expanding their portfolio, or if maybe by chance they know somebody that is looking to buy a building in the area. So, I want to contact everybody. So here's my list. It shows up on the map now, and you can see that I found a total of 144 results meet that search criteria. Here they are kind of mapped out on the map. And then below the map, you've got your list of search results. And this is giving us right now the first 25 of those 144 results. I can change that to the 10, 50, whatever I want to show on the screen at a time. But here's the first 25 in the list, and you have you can modify these columns to show. Here we're showing property owner, we're showing phone number, number of buildings that are owned by the by that property owner in the area, then that property address, etc. I can add things like when was it last sold. I can customize the fields that I'm showing in the table. And you can see we've got plenty of fields, or a lot that you can choose from to put in there. Lot size, I could add date purchase, purchase price, any of that stuff. So let me click on one of these. So you find one that you're interested in, you click on it, and this is 1100 Lincoln Avenue. So I scroll back up here, and I see to the right of the map now is our details section, and this is where you get into the meat of the data that we have in ProspectNow. The first tab here is property information. This is your basic information about the property, things like assessed value, if the seller's name was available when it last sold, we have that information here, the date it was purchased, and this is basic information that you could probably get pretty readily from title company or county assessor website, that sort of thing. It's on the next tab, the owner tab, where things get very interesting, and this is where kind of the power of ProspectNow really kicks in. So here we see that this property, 1100 Lincoln Avenue, is owned by a company called Paha Investments. Now, if you were doing this search on your own, you'd be kind of stuck at this step. You've got the property owner, but it's not a person's name. It's the name of some investment company. You do have their address, so you could send them a letter and say, hey, I'm interested, Paha Investments, in your property in San Jose. But as you scroll down a little bit further, you see that in ProspectNow, we've pulled up not only the name of the company, or LLC, but if we scroll down here, we already are supplying you with the partner name. So in this case, Alex Buyer is the partner on this LLC. So now we have a name, we've got a phone number that goes with it, and we've got Paha Investments LLC, Paha Investments Company, and phone numbers and a name. But we can go even deeper. So you'll see that this Paha Investments is headquartered here, that the owner address is 66 Potrero Avenue in San Francisco, and at that same address we have recognized that there's another company called Buyer California. Now Buyer, same name as the partner here, so the connection here is this Buyer California is likely to be a parent company to the Paha Investments. So now we've got the company behind the company that owns this property. So you can see the power of how we're digging in deeper into the into the background of this property. And if we scroll down a little bit more, we see that here's Joel Feldman. So now we have another name, and he's the president and COO of the Buyer California. Now this might be the guy I really want to talk to. So Joel, as the chief operating officer, may be one that talks about the properties, be the right contact person. So let's say I want to call Joel. I decide, yeah, I'm going to start with Joel, and I want to know something about him before I call him. Well, you'll see in ProspectNow, we have these LinkedIn icon. What you can do is if you have a LinkedIn account, you can click on that little icon. It pulls up a little dialog box of LinkedIn profiles for Joel Feldmans in the area. Now this first one is for Joel Feldman, who is a VP at Otis Spunkmeyer. I think they make cookies, so that's not my guy. I click on the next one, and here's Joel, President COO at Bayer, California. I click on View Profile, and boom, it brings up the LinkedIn profile for Joel Feldman, COO at Bayer, California. And in this case, really, we're in luck. He has put in quite a lot of personal information about himself in LinkedIn. So now I can pick up the phone, and when I call Joel to talk to him about his property on Lincoln Avenue in San Jose, I've just warmed up that call quite a bit because of the information I was able to get out of ProspectNow. Now I know that Joel is, born in Brooklyn, went to college in Brooklyn, moved out to California at some point, went to school in Berkeley, and so there's a lot of background on him and his personal and professional life, so that when I get him on the phone, I've got some points of connection. So just some really powerful stuff that we can do within ProspectNow in terms of trying to get information about who we're wanting to call. I want to show you the advanced search, so I clicked on advanced search. What I did to find properties on Lincoln Avenue was just use our quick search bar, but the advanced search is where you can really hone in and target different property owners that meet criteria that you set up. So you can see in the advanced search we've got 4 different sections of search criteria that you can use. I'm going to hit the reset button so it clears everything out. In the property location section, you can put in things like you select the county that you're searching in. You could put a specific address. You can pick only a certain city within that county. So if we want to do, for instance, Sunnyvale, you can click on that, and let's say I wanted to do a radius search around a certain property. I can say show me everything that's a quarter mile around, I don't know, 116 Carroll, or what, wait, let's see, 120 Carroll, is that one in there? 120 Carroll Street, Sunnyvale. So now I can do a quarter mile search of properties around that. On the owner data side, I told you about some of our targeted searches where you can search for owners that are out of state. So if I wanted out of state owners, for example, I would choose all the states, and then I would uncheck California in this case because the property is in California. So now this, if I did this search, would show me all of my out of state owners of those properties. Or I could choose property owners that own multiple properties, and here's where I would put that in here. So I could say, give me the property owners that own at least 2 properties, but maybe say not more than 10 in the area, and that'll kind of give me those medium-sized investors in the area that own just a few properties, but more than one. Scroll down a little bit, then there's your section for property characteristics. If you want to focus on a type of property, commercial, residential, apartment buildings, you could select those, and then other information about the properties, number of units, size, lot size, building size, all of that. And then finally, our 4th section is financial data. And those of you that are lenders or bankers, and for instance, you want to find people for refinancing or loans and that sort of thing, you'll focus on this information over here. This is where you can put in, for example, what's the current loan amount on the property, or when was it last sold or refinanced, so you can use dates to kind of hone in on properties that might be due for a refinance and that sort of thing. So that would be under the financial data. You can also choose pre-foreclosure properties. So if you selected this criteria, for example, that would give you all the properties that have had a notice of default filed in the last 90 days. So that's how some of these other search fields work. Let me just hit this one. I've got quarter mile around this address in Sunnyvale, owners of 2 to 10 properties. I click on search, and it comes back with, you can see they're kind of clustered around, kind of make a circle there, and they're clustered around that address. And then here's their all the results here, and I can start making phone calls now and looking into contacting these owners. So I think that's a pretty good overview of how the search works. We also have tenant information, so if you want to search on tenants, I'll show you that real quick. So for example, let's say I wanted to contact all of the Verizon stores in Atlanta, Georgia. I can do a tenant search that way, click on search, and it comes back, and here's the 13 stores, Verizon businesses in Atlanta, Georgia. So that's on the tenant side, and you can search. There's an advanced search on tenants as well, where you can search by number of employees or sales volume for the year and that sort of thing. So that's the demo, the overview. One more thing I wanted to mention to you guys, or show you this, is a few years back, we decided to sort of evaluate how well our product helps people in terms of comparing it to with and without ProspectNow. And so we hired somebody who did not have a background in real estate and hooked him up with a real estate agent and said, hey, we're going to have this guy do some calling for you to try and generate leads. And of course, the real estate professional said, absolutely, you want to have somebody make calls for me, go for it. And so we did. We got his search criteria, what the real estate agent was looking for in terms of searches, and we had our guy that we hired put that information into ProspectNow and just searched and started making phone calls. And what we found is that the real estate professional said, hey, if he had to do all this research, he could probably make about 25 calls in an hour between looking up the address and doing the research to find the phone number. And our guy was able to make almost 45 calls in that same amount of time by just using ProspectNow. And remember, he doesn't have a background in real estate, so he was probably going slow compared to a real estate professional. So that's an increase in efficiency of about 175% in terms of additional calls made. And I won't go through all of these numbers, but the bottom line is, by being able to being more efficient and being able to make more calls in a day, he was able to generate more leads per week, almost 7 more leads per week, making those phone calls, and then using kind of some standard statistics on how many leads it takes to generate a listing and how many listings end up selling in 12 months. The bottom line here is potential increase of almost 13 closed deals in a year, and that's some standard kind of typical rates in terms of the value of the property and the percentage netted by the real estate professional. That's a potential net increase in income of $187,000. So not bad. Obviously, it depends on how many calls you make, but in terms of increasing efficiency, ProspectNow can really help with that. It's our model, as Steve had mentioned, is pretty easygoing. You pay monthly. It's 1 to 3 counties on a monthly basis. Cancel anytime you want, so you try it out for a month. It's our subscription-based price is $89 a month for 1 county, and you can work that out for a month, and if it doesn't work for you, cancel. If you love it, just keep going. We do have substantial discounts if you want an annual contract, or if you want state or full U.S. access, you can get that as well. So that's the overview. That's ProspectNow, and thank you to Steve for being on the call today and giving us his feedback. And if you have any questions for us, or you want a demo or a free trial, we do set up folks with free trials. You can contact us directly through our website or give us a direct call, and we'd be happy to set that up for you. So thanks everyone for coming today. I wish you all the best and happy prospecting.